Hey everybody, today I am going to be reviewing The Phoenician Scheme. This was directed by Wes Anderson. I believe this is Anderson's 12th feature film, and his work is a genre in and of itself at this point. He is an auteur director with such a singular vision that it almost defies logic. And in terms of the world building, the aesthetic, it feels as if his movies are getting more elaborate as they go. At least when you go into a Wes Anderson film, whether it clicks with you or not, you know what you're going to get. So he is reliable. It's as if he has this long, weird, kind of heavily detailed Rolodex of all of his personal staples to pull from, and he can entertain them in different formulas. And as you might expect, The Phoenician Scheme is a stunning film. If it weren't for the already established vision, the art direction of Wes Anderson films, this would be a revelation to me because it is dripping with the most rich, most meticulous details. It's like he was a child who was assigned some very simple art project to do when he gets home from school, but then he comes back with the most gorgeous, elaborate, like shadow box where you plug it in and it lights up. He is just one of a kind. And one of the things I liked about the presentation of this film was kind of that Middle Eastern aesthetic, the tapestries, a lot of patterns in this movie. They're always kind of structuring aspects of the movie metaphorically. And he is always trying to find some architectural way of navigating every world of his movies. But there's something about this one where like the symmetry is just so interesting, whether it's like, like tiles on the bathroom floor or it's, wallpaper. It just has this stilted, nostalgic quality. And then you mix it with like the silent era, like Buster Keaton type of deadpan comedy. And then you mix that with the constant exposition as well. It's all quintessential. When you look at this movie and a movie like Asteroid City, which came out a couple of years ago that he did, both of those carry an existential weight to them. But I think Phoenician Scheme is trying to be more singular as an arc, where we are following one character's existential crisis. And in this case, it is Benicio del Toro. And he's playing this very rich, corrupt businessman who is constantly being targeted by governments and revolutionaries. And this lifestyle is so casual for him at this point that he has this very like ho-hum approach to the assassination attempts and just death in general. I'm often fascinated by the monotone performances of the characters in contrast to the style of everything, and in particular the humor, because it has this kind of like Bugs Bunny cartoon logic. The whole time I watched this movie, I felt like I was trapped in like some big Moroccan rug store or something like that. And I guess what I wanted was for this movie to kind of shave off piece by piece the more complicated external plot threads so that we could focus on the more intimate parts of the main character. It's quite different compared to something like Grand Budapest Hotel, which came out, I think, in 2014, which, that's a more complex world, but you have a lot of different moving pieces in that one, and the whole point is for them to create a certain harmony. I think if you are a Wes Anderson fan, or a movie fan in general, it is hard not to admire what is going on here, because it is like a perfect little dollhouse. And yet at the same time, there was something about the simplicity of the narrative where I felt like it was kind of getting lost in the presentation. The mise-en-scene, as careful and curated as it is, I'm not sure if it provides the right kind of irony where the emotional relationships in this movie are coming through. So it does end up leaving me a bit cold. Anderson's ideas about like social class and politics, all of that, they're all coming through in this movie to varying degrees. And every moment in the movie has some depth to it. And part of the aesthetic is to reflect that stuffy, isolated feeling when it comes to having all of this wealth. Because Benicio del Toro's character, he is lonely. And like I said, he's constantly at death's door. He's constantly facing the abyss. And little by little, he starts to realize that he has this desire to connect to family. And to me, that is the crux of the film. The actors here are wonderful and they do their job as always. But the standout for me, I think, was Mia Threppleton, who, I don't know, she just had this fierce intent behind the stoicism where it's like you could feel her emotions without her having to do much. Michael Cera also seemed to fit the world of Wes Anderson quite well, where he was endearing and funny. There are a lot of screwball situations in this movie that I think work in concept, but they just don't land in any refreshing way or honest way for Anderson at this point. It feels like we are checking boxes on a list of Anderson go-tos, and thematically, so much of this movie feels on the surface instead of well integrated into the plot threads and the characters. Part of that surface level quality is always going to be intentional, and like when it comes to like the exposition in the movie, it's always quite self-aware, it's cheeky, it's silly. I don't feel like I gained much from the central character that didn't feel like it was already pre-paved for us in the narrative. For me, I just prefer the emotional core of Anderson works to propel the stylistic flourishes, but here it's more like we are carving the emotion out of the style. And some are going to prefer that compared to the earlier works of Wes Anderson. And maybe when I have perspective, one day I will look at, all Wes Anderson movies and kind of have a different perspective on it all. But at this point, I just prefer movies like Moonrise Kingdom or Fantastic Mr. Fox. And when I watched this movie, it's like I had this weird feeling where it's like I was kind of invested, and yet at the same time, I wasn't fully present. It's like there was a level of tedium I couldn't shake. I just picture Anderson in this gorgeous, like, southern house, and it's like he's polishing this beautiful, detailed glass menagerie, and he's doing it over and over again. And I guess, I mean, as beautiful as it is, I'd like for him to regroup a little bit. Obviously, it is his choice, but I think he's a little bit too settled, too comfortable in his style. Of course, if I'm comparing this to most of the movies that are currently out, it is a big step above. So in that sense, yes, I do think that you should see the film because I do like it. I do think there is enough to admire overall, even if it is unsatisfying thematically. I do worry about maybe like the die-hard Wes Anderson fans that they might see this as a tad redundant, but I still think you need to see it. It is a very low bar, but I think this is one of the more solid movies of the year so far. But that is my review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to plug my website as always. It is deepfocuslens.com. I'm an artist. I do commission portraits, and I also sell prints of my work. If that's something that you're interested in, you can always go to the website below. And if you have a question about a commission or a print, you can always email me. My email is in the description box below as well. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons who are great. Guys, thank you so much for your support. Welcome to all the new members. If you are interested in supporting, the link for that is below, as well as the rest of my social media information. You can watch more videos here, and you can subscribe if you'd like. Catch you next time.